Alright, so the moment of truth. We've been able to explore the workspace, the 5 areas that we're able to go through. We've been able to create our assets, right? This and that. And up to now, we've been just digital artists, but now we animate. So, hello everyone, welcome back to the Toon Boom Basic Series. A huge well done to those of you who have been able to follow up to this episode. In the last episode, we created our element that we're going to use for this animation, that is the ball and the ground. And we also place them in their very separate layers. So if you follow the last tutorial, you should have them separated in 2 layers. Simple as that. You should have these 2 layers, right? So by the end of this video, your ball should be officially alive and be able to move up and down. First things first, let's take a look at your timeline right here on the bottom left, right? As you can see, if I should zoom in a little bit, it seems our drawings seem to exist only on this side. As you can see, if I should move my playhead to the next frame, everything disappears, right? As you can see, there's just solid gray line here indicating where our drawings are at the moment, right? So what if we want our drawings to last longer than that? We want our drawings to stay for a second, right? So all this gray area means they are invisible for the rest of the time. We need to tell Harmony how long we want them to stay on the screen. This is called extending the exposure, right? We need to tell Harmony how long we want it to stay. This is extending the exposure. So let's make our animation 1 second long. Since we are working on 24 frames per second, we need our drawing to be visible for 24 frames. So click on the first frame of your ground layer. So make sure you're on the ground layer. Click on the first frame. Then you move your playhead from frame 1 all the way to frame 24, which is right here. And you can tell by looking at the frame count here. So you can either move it manually from here to 24, or you just type in the frame you want your playhead to be and it's going to be there. And as we get to the 24th frame, all you have to do is just strike F5 on the keyboard and you realize it is filled out with this gray area. Now you can see that our ground is extended to the 24th frame, and we can do that for whatever number that we want. Let's say we want to take it to 60, we can do that and extend it, right? But now we want it on the 24th frame. Okay, so now that we have this ground layer extended, you can see the visible bar right here. So now it's showing that everything is extended to this side. Alright, so perfect. Now we have the ground extended for a whole second. Now let's do the same thing for the ball layer. We go back to the ball layer, select the first frame, make sure we are working on the ball layer, and we can easily input our figure here. Then we strike F5 to extend it. So now both the ball and the ground layer are extended to the 24th frame, meaning you have a lot of drawings from 1 to 24, and when we pass 24, there's nothing there. Alright, so now our stage is set. Let's give the computer its first instruction. This is done with what we call keyframe, right? The keyframe is just a marker in the time that says, at this moment, I want my object, character, or item in this position, this size, or this rotation, right? So make sure we have our playhead on the first frame. Since we want it to start on the first frame, which is frame 1, you can check it right here. So you make sure you have our playhead on the first frame on the ball. Then we move to the transform tool. This is a tool that we are going to use to transform the object, to move it up and down. But make sure this icon of this stick figure here is turned on to animate. Make sure it's turned on to animate. On default, it should be on animate. I just turned mine off. We'll get to that later on. With the translate tool, you make sure your playhead is on the first frame. Since we want to give the instruction here, select the first frame using the playhead. And if you have this problem where your transform tool isn't activating when you're working on the drawing layer, you can easily fix it by double clicking on this icon right here. Assuming we want to give the instruction to the ball, you come to the icon right here on the ball, you double click that, you open up the properties here, then you move to the control. So you move to the controls tab and make sure you check this option, animate using animation tool. I check this off because I do a bit of complex animation and I don't want my animation to be on the drawing layer, rather on the peg. We'll deal with that later on. But for now, we want to animate on the peg, so make sure this is checked off. So we're going to do the same thing for the ground, even though we do not need to really animate the ground. I think that is already done. Good. So now when I select using the transform tool, you can see this right here. Alright, so make sure the ball is selected, the ball layer is selected. You grab your transform tool. Then let's position the ball where you want it to start. And we want it to start at the highest point. So now that is it. We have it at the highest point. Now we lock in the instruction that we want this as our keyframe, as our face frame. So we are going to give that instruction by pressing F6, right, on the keyboard. And you can see this little red dot right here in the time frame. That means the computer has recorded that first action, right? So now we are telling the PC that on the first frame, this is where we want our ball to be, right? So now let us move to the next frame where we want our ball to drop. Let us give the second instruction. Let's say you want the ball to hit the ground halfway through this time. So halfway through this will be on the 12th frame. So move the playhead there or just type in 12, right? And just like we did for the first frame, we're going to move it to, so now that we're on the 12th frame, and just as we did on the first frame, we're going to drop the ball down till it touches the ground. Alright, so now we're giving instructions to the first and the last frame, but what about all the frames between them? You see the computer has filled it up. This is what we call tweening or in-between, and this is where the magic happens, right? This is where the computer kind of does a bit of the animation for us. So if I should move my playhead through this, you can see that the ball is actually moving, right? Good. So now we have a drop back, it's not a bounce. Let's make it go back up, right? We want it to go back up to the same height that we did for the first one, right? So we can easily do that. Instead of coming here to drag and move the ball, why don't we just go to the first frame since we want it to go back up there? We copy that will be Ctrl+C, and we come and paste it on the last frame. And just as it happened in the first one, the PC is going to fill in the other frames. That is what we call the tweening or the in-between. And there you go. We just told it to go from high to low and back high. And now you can just press play on your playhead and you have your first animation. And that is simple. You have our first bouncing ball. Alright, so now you're officially an animator. Okay, so now you might notice it looks a bit robotic. It moves at a constant speed, doesn't feel like it has any weight. So in our next episode, we are going to fix that by learning some principles of animation like timing, spacing, squash, and stretch. That's when we'll give our ball some real personality. If this was a big step for you, a like and a subscribe would be awesome. Let me know in the comment section if you have any questions about Keyframe. Until next time, happy animating.